The Left Behind DLC in The Last of Us gives players the chance to see at least 2 situations in the game where both the infected and other humans are fighting against each other, and this presented me with a nice little question. What happens to the humans if they are killed by the clickers and other infected? Will they then become infected themselves, or do they just die? So, this seems like a good idea for a little experiment. So, let's just find out what happens to the human characters when they get killed by the infected. So my journey starts off with Ellie as I slowly climbed up and looked to enter into this area. I fire a couple of bow shots just to see if anything's there first, and it seems safe, so I drop down, and then I get a bit further in and I decide to fire another one into the bigger room, and it's there where I see there's a load of clickers inside. And that seems to trigger them as they all rush out, and it also triggers the human characters as they come down from the top at the back there. And then they just automatically start firing at each other because they haven't yet noticed me. And this is where I first think, well, what exactly happens if the clickers kill those humans, or even the normal infected kill them? Will they then get up and start walking around as an infected, or do they just stay dead? And that's what we're going to find out today. So, like a coward, I just stay hidden in cover and I just let them lot fight each other, and it's not long before those humans are just completely fucked over by those infected. One does last a little bit longer than the others, but he's soon killed off, and then I'm just left with me and those 3 infected in the room. So naturally, I do what needs to be done, and I make short work of those infected, shivving and shooting and running and gunning, and it's not long before they're all killed, and I'm just left in a quiet room with my 2 buddies over here. So I trample over them both, probably squashing a few testicles as I go, and I think to myself, yeah, they're pretty dead, but just to be sure, I'm going to retreat to a safer place and just keep an eye on them for a second, just to see if they do get up right away or not. Let's see what happens. And, well, again, they seem pretty dead, so I can't see them just getting up straight away, so I move back in for a closer look on both, taking a look at them both, and I think to myself, I need to give them names. So this is Randy. Now, or rather it was Randy. And his little mate over here with the arrow in his head that disappears, he's going to be called Tom. So for the purposes of this experiment, I'm working with Randy and Tom. The other guy at the back, he can fuck off. He doesn't matter. So in the game, the zombies, or infected if you will, react to light. So that's one of the things I want to try out first. What happens if I shine a light on them? Will they suddenly come to life? I end up picking Randy to take part in this experiment first, so I'll quickly pull out the flashlight and shine it in his general direction, aiming for his face as best as possible. I turn the light on and off to see if he would respond to any sort of light in his face, and what do you know, he doesn't even flinch. So I try it on Tom, but because he's got some visor over his face, I didn't think it would work as well on him anyway, and it just didn't do anything, unfortunately. So light does not bring them back to life. So that right there is a big fail for test 1. So after failing that miserably, I decide to take a look around the area, and I managed to find a brick on the floor. And that leads me to my next test. What if they react to a sudden impact? Maybe some blunt force trauma to the face. So that test 2 is reaction to a brick. So I aim at Randy and I throw the brick as hard and powerful as I can for a 13-year-old girl, and it goes straight in his face. But again, he just doesn't even react to it. So that, disappointingly, is another fail. With the brick not working, I decided to look around to try and find a glass bowl to throw at them, because I figured, well, maybe a sharp object in their face will spark some sort of reaction. So that is my next experiment. What happens if I glass them? Will that cause them to rise up once more? Let's find out. So I pull out the bottle and I choose Randy again because he's getting all the punishment for some reason, and I throw it at him as hard as I can, and it just smashes right in his fucking jaw. But what do you know? Again, he just takes it as if it's just nothing, and he's just sitting there looking at me saying, "Is that the best you can do?" So again, it's another fail, unfortunately. Okay, we must try harder now. I realise I'm going to need something bigger with this if I need to get them to come back to life with something. Something bigger will have to be there to spark a reaction. So I search all around the place, looking in the lockers, in the drawers, picking up everything I can find so I can finally build something. And that, I gotta say, it was thirsty work walking around the whole place. It was fucking tiring too, so I decided to stop off at the vending machine to get a special cola, but you know, I think they were all out, so I couldn't even get a nice little beverage on the go. Disappointed, I returned to Randy and Tom to show them all the cool stuff I've collected, and it's there where I decided to build my first super weapon, a cocktail, because I want to know what happens if I burn them. Will that cause them to rise from the grave? Let's find out. So, while I briefly contemplated throwing it at Tom, I decided to just throw it at Randy because he's had most punishment so far and he's due to wake up shortly. So off I go. I lob it, and holy shit, fuck's sake, Ellie. Jesus, I've probably singed your fucking eyebrows off there. Fuck me, that flame was fucking all over the shop. And unfortunately, it didn't hit him fully, but I decided to try and pull his body over the flame, and that still didn't really do anything. So that is another fail. So at this point I'm getting really desperate now, and I decided to see what happens when gravity takes its toll on one of the humans, as a small fall didn't really do anything, so I decided to try and ragdoll him a bit more. Maybe a bit of time in the snow will just freeze him a bit and cool him down, and then that temperature change will cause him to wake up and be infected. But alas, it didn't seem to do anything. Though we did make some pretty snow angels, he still didn't wake up, so that is another fail. So with Randy still looking a little worse for wear, I decided to use my final big weapon, the nail bomb. So I gently place it next to his chest and I retreat to a safe distance, hoping that the nails may attach to him and rebuild him, so to speak. Oh no! Randy! Oh God! Oh no! What have I done? Oh God, he's everywhere. Oh God, oh look, his hand. After Randy's accident, I was kind of running out of options at this point, so I decided to return to good old Tom, who was still chilling out on this little ledge here. And the only thing I could really do now at this point, having exhausted all the other supplies in the room, was to just wait it out with him and see if he would eventually turn. So that's exactly what I was going to do. I was just going to sit here and wait. So as I stood there next to Tom's lifeless, decaying body, desperately hoping that he would turn into an infected, I started to look back and remember just how far I'd came in this experiment and just how it all began. I felt guilty that I didn't step in and help Tom and Randy right at the beginning and save them from the clicker nightmare. Instead, they just died. And even my best attempts, like the brick, the lights, the cocktails, the bottles, everything that I tried just didn't work. Even blowing up Randy randomly just didn't work. I couldn't bring them back as an infected. And this was my only hope. And yet, after a good 28 minutes of waiting, Tom still didn't get back up. This test had failed. So it seems that the humans in this game, despite dying by the infected, won't actually turn themselves. So there was nothing else for me to do here. I needed to move on. Goodbye, Tom. I'm sorry. Goodbye, Randy. Sorry about that. It's time for me to move on. Find something else to do in The Last of Us. I've been Super Beanie-man, and this has been a cool video, I hope. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.